Welcome back. This is Hannah from Lyme Advise, continuing my interview with Robbie Besner of Therasage. This part of the interview will deal more directly with how his technology at Therasage directly can help treat Lyme disease. How can infrared therapy help someone with Lyme disease specifically, and more directly, what symptoms can it help alleviate?
That's a great question. So, back to my initial premise, we started developing our infrared technology as a way for our family to manage on a daily basis the symptoms that my daughter was experiencing with chronic Lyme. This was 22 years ago. Her symptoms were she had cognitive challenges, and she experienced body pain, twitching, almost like a neuropathy where she had pins and needles in her extremities, joint pain. She experienced what I consider to be high levels of toxicity and high levels of inflammation. And so when I studied her symptoms, I started looking around. I have a pre-med and engineering background, and I started looking at the different ways that we could help her as a family, because as you know, Hannah, as well as you may have a relationship with your medical practitioner and the person that's kind of helping you through navigating you through your health challenge, 99% of the time you're managing either yourself personally or you're got the support of your family to help you. And so when I looked at that relationship, and the Lyme literate doctor that we were going to was located in New York, and so we live in South Florida, so we were visiting every 6 weeks. And so most of the time we were managing our daughter's health, or she was, at our home. And so when I looked at the various different symptoms she was expressing, I somehow centered on toxicity. And when I looked at the various methods of the best ways to detox, chelation, dialysis, using certain kinds of pharmaceuticals or natural supplements to purge toxins, that's when I discovered that there are actually certain wavelengths of sunlight, which is the infrared spectrum, that will mobilize all the toxins in your body. Okay? Mm-hmm. So lowering toxicity also lowers inflammation. And if you lower inflammation, you also lower body pain. And mm-hmm. So here I found this amazing concept, a natural concept of sunlight, or an extraction of sunlight, that actually take care of many of my daughter's symptoms, and we can manage that at home. So I thought, here we are, found the holy grail. But 22 years ago, there wasn't any infrared devices available. It was basically being used by sports medicine doctors to help players heal faster, lower their pain thresholds, and get them patched up so they get back on the football field, right?
Yeah.
So I did some research. I spent 2.5 months in China. I found a couple of factories. I started developing devices for our own personal use, and that's essentially was the genesis of our company. Our Lyme doctors saw that our daughter was getting some great results, and we started developing them for them, and that was sort of the genesis of our company. So I'm giving you a long-winded answer to your question because besides many, there are many symptoms to Lyme disease, and people express it in different ways. But all of those symptoms, they come from a certain place, and one of the places is the toxins and the inflammation that is caused by the imbalance in the chemistry of your body. So if we can change that, by lowering your toxic burden, lowering inflammation, then a lot of symptoms like food sensitivities, allergies, skin-related challenges. Oftentimes, Lyme patients have rashes that occur. I mentioned about. I didn't mention, but things like your low energy, fatigue, sleeping challenges. For my daughter, her whole body clock, her circadian rhythm was completely off kilter. So she'd sleep during the day and she'd be up all night. And when you're not sleeping during the hours, get a deep sleep, like a REM sleep between 12 and 4 a.m., then your body can't go into that repair mode that you need to be in order for you to sort of fight back or battle back the damage that Lyme has done, or any of these other co-infections from the day before. So that sauna and using the healing pads we make are very, very instrumental, in my opinion, in really creating that healthy platform to unwind that coil and get everybody's health back on track.
Lyme patients are often very sensitive to all forms of treatment. How should a patient begin implementing infrared treatment into their everyday life?
Great question. Again, okay, so we have a general format, and through my relationship with Lyme Advise, I'm offering a special reference guide for using sauna. So that you guys just have to ask the group how to get it, and then we'll make sure that we supply that information. It really depends on the symptom. Like if I've got a Lyme patient that is very symptomatic, sometimes they're even bedridden, then it's the way the best analogy I give in my coaching, it's like I'm teaching you how to swim, Hannah. And if you've never swam before, I was your coach, I wouldn't throw you into the deep end of the pool and then walk away and say, I'll be back in a half hour and expect you to survive. I start everybody off in a very conservative way, sort of in the shallow end. And if you're very symptomatic, then where the initial position with sauna could be for 30-minute session, maybe at 125 degrees Fahrenheit. If you're very symptomatic, I might have you start it for 15 minutes at maybe 100 or 110 degrees, which is just about 13 or 14 degrees warmer than your core temperature. And so you'll start to feel a subtle shift. And the worst thing that I could ever do is create a very strong detox or a Herx reaction that actually creates a big setback to a Lyme patient that's just wants to get stronger and healthier and move forward.
If a Lyme patient or their family is struggling financially and a sauna is something they cannot afford, is there something else that is second best but is more affordable to help with their treatment and therapies?
Well, the good news is every so often we have with our products, we have demonstration or demo models that come back that we either pro bono to patients, or we make it a much more affordable price than a brand new one. We do offer financing if the family or the person is credit worthy, and I think that for health devices there are certain safe harbors that the credit companies are a little bit more understanding. But, in general, there are a lot of different approaches and roads to Rome. And so if you're asking for me to tell you what I would advise outside of just doing sauna or infrared devices, some other things that are very helpful are good filtered water sources, because hydration is a very important key to general health. But I've noticed that we're a nation that drinks a lot of water, but most of the water that we drink is either bottled or is what they call dead water in the water language, meaning that it's not very bioavailable to the cell. And so when you're dehydrated, a lot of your symptoms are exaggerated. So you can drink a lot of water, but if it doesn't resonate or get inside the cell, then the body, then you're not really cellular hydrated. And that means that the cell can't get minerals and nutrients in, and it can't get toxins out, so it doesn't methylate, doesn't operate properly. And so a good water filtration, good water is so important. Even with sauna protocols, you need good water. But that would be something that I would look at addressing right away. And the other one would be sleep, looking for sleep solutions, because many Lyme patients are challenged with sleep, and if you're having challenges with sleep, then you wake up tired. If you wake up tired, it's really hard to fight the battle. And so if we could do things to create a better sleep, the third category is the exogenous frequencies like electromagnetic fields and dirty electricity. I think that is important to be addressed, because many of those frequencies activate the Lyme and the co-infections. So we don't need that, because they don't need to be energized by anything other than anything else. They already got enough sources with your life source, but if you give them extra energy from EMF, then that's not going to help. So, and then the fourth would be an oxygen therapy of some kind, either hyperbaric or ozone therapy. If not integrated with a sauna, then outside therapies like that have been very effective in helping Lyme people.
I'm sure I could guess what your possible answer to this question would be, but if a Lyme patient could only pick one thing from Therasage, what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. It's an actual tough one. You're now asking a parent to tell you whether if they prefer one child to another. So it's hard for me to answer that one. My first thrust would be to the sauna, simply because it's a full body experience, and even though the Lyme patient might be experiencing specific symptoms that might be, let's say, body pain or muscle pain or a joint that's out of whack, which, it's really coming from something that's more systemic or full body. And so my preference probably would tilt towards the infrared sauna. If they couldn't afford that, we have very affordable healing pads, which cost less than the sauna. I would recommend they start somewhere. So that would be my second choice, would be the healing pads, to answer your question.
That is the conclusion of Lyme Advise's second part interview with Robbie Besner of Therasage. Our third part will talk about water purification and the importance of filtration when treating a chronic illness. If you haven't yet listened to our first part, check it out. It talks about Therasage as a company and what it can offer regarding ultra-red frequency technology and how it can help treat chronic illnesses, specifically Lyme disease.